Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and comment below if you think you can handle a story this dark. This isn't for the faint of heart. The winter air bit sharply in the small Florida town, carrying the faint scent of pine and cigarette smoke. Christmas lights twinkled in the quiet suburbs, masking the tension beneath the holiday cheer. But that night, the laughter of families was shattered by a discovery that would shake the community to its core. It began with a missing person report filed late on a Thursday evening. 14-year-old Danika Troy hadn't returned home from school. Her mother, Megan, frantic and exhausted, told police her daughter had simply gone out to be with friends. But something in Megan's gut whispered that this was more than a typical teen disappearance. Danika wasn't rebellious. She wasn't the type to vanish without a word. By 9 p.m., detectives were combing the neighborhood, flashlights cutting through the darkness like searchlights on a war zone. Every neighbor was questioned, every corner of the nearby woods scanned. A storm had rolled in overnight, drenching the forest floor in mud and fallen leaves, making footprints and tire tracks harder to trace. But even in the wet chaos, there were clues, tiny, almost imperceptible, yet glaring to experienced eyes. A torn piece of red fabric snagged on a branch, a single sneaker print oddly far from the main paths, and the faint smell of smoke lingering in the air, bitter and chemical. Detective Harold James, a veteran with 3 decades on the force, examined the evidence with a trained eye. He muttered, more to himself than anyone else, this wasn't random. Someone wanted this girl somewhere, someone she knew. And indeed, Danika's friends hinted at a crush she'd been talking about for weeks. A boy from her class, friendly, charming, and seemingly harmless, at least on the surface. The detectives soon learned that his social media posts hinted at a darker streak, a fascination with danger that made even casual acquaintances uneasy. But nothing could have prepared them for what they would discover next. By midnight, Megan's home was filled with police lights and murmurs of unease. Forensic teams worked methodically, cataloging every scrap of evidence. Then came the call from a deputy patrolling the woods. Something buried near a cluster of pine trees had been uncovered. Shovels scraped against dirt, and when the earth finally gave way, the team froze. The sight was chilling. Amid the mud and pine needles lay a small backpack, shredded and soaked, with personal items scattered around, a cell phone, a notebook, and something that made everyone's stomach turn: traces of blood. Nearby, faint footprints suggested someone had attempted to move or hide evidence in the dark, leaving a trail just enough to alert the experienced eyes of law enforcement. And as Detective James peered closer at the backpack, a slip of paper fell from the side pocket. On it, scrawled in a childish hand, were words that would haunt Megan forever. I just wanted to be in love for Christmas. The night had started with twinkling lights and laughter, but now it ended with horror, grief, and a question hanging over the entire town. How could a teenage crush turn into such a nightmare? But when the detectives followed the footprints deeper into the woods, what they found changed everything. The forest was silent now, save for the crunch of wet leaves beneath the officers' boots. Flashlights pierced the darkness, revealing twisted roots and tangled undergrowth, each shadow threatening to hide a new revelation. Detective Harold James led the team cautiously, every step measured, every sound amplified in the tense night. The footprints they had been following vanished near a small clearing, but something else caught their attention. A faint glimmer among the pines, metallic and deliberate. It was a small, rusted keychain, its plastic charm cracked but unmistakably personalized. Someone had dropped it in a hurry. Nearby, the dirt bore the imprint of tires, suggesting a vehicle had come in, perhaps to retrieve or conceal what had already been left in the woods. James crouched, examining the soil. He muttered, "They knew what they were doing. This wasn't spontaneous, it was planned." Back in town, Megan sat in her dimly lit kitchen, clutching a mug of cold coffee, her eyes red and swollen. She couldn't stop thinking about Danika's words. "I just wanted to be in love for Christmas." The innocence of that wish now seemed grotesque, tainted by the horror it had birthed. She replayed the moments she'd shared with her daughter over the past weeks, the talks about boys, school, even the excited whispers about the upcoming holiday. How could a simple crush have spiraled into this nightmare? Meanwhile, Detective James and his team continued to piece together the puzzle. School friends were interviewed under the glare of fluorescent lights, each revelation peeling back another layer of deceit. One student hesitated, voice trembling. I think he didn't mean to. It got out of hand." Another whispered about online messages, secret meetups, and arguments that nobody else had witnessed. The boy Danika liked wasn't just charming. He had a controlling streak, an obsession with appearances and attention that masked a deeper, volatile anger.
By the next morning, the scene had shifted. The authorities had discovered something far more disturbing than a missing teen's backpack. Hidden beneath a pile of branches, wrapped in a tarp, was a charred object that made even the seasoned detectives recoil. The forensic team worked in silence, gloves trembling slightly as they carefully unwrapped what had been so meticulously concealed. The truth was undeniable. Danika had been harmed, and someone had tried to erase every trace. As the news broke through local media, the town reeled. The boy, once perceived as an ordinary student, was now under police scrutiny, his social media and devices seized for evidence. Detectives uncovered a series of cryptic messages between him and friends, discussions about secrets, revenge, and anger. The relationship with Danika was no longer just a crush. It had become an obsession that festered in darkness. Megan's grief was now mingled with fear. The boy who had been the center of her daughter's affection was accused of something unspeakable, yet the full story remained elusive. Why had Danika trusted him? What had triggered the violence? And most importantly, was the boy acting alone, or had others been involved? Just as the investigation seemed edge closer to answers, a new discovery shook the case to its core. Hidden on the boy's phone, in a deleted chat thread, were photos and messages that suggested the crime was premeditated, planned days, if not weeks, in advance. Someone had mapped out the encounter, lured Danika into a trap, and intended to make sure no one would find her. Detective James stared at the screen, a cold chill crawling up his spine. This isn't just about a teenage crush. This is calculated, and someone else knows more than they're telling us. And then, just as the team prepared to question the boy, another phone pinged. An anonymous tip revealing a secret location, a hidden shed on the outskirts of town. What the tip led to would unravel the investigation in ways no one could have imagined. The shed stood at the edge of town like a forgotten secret, its wooden planks warped and weathered, paint peeling from years of neglect. Snow from the rare December storm clung to the roof, drifting lazily down as Detective Harold James and his team approached. Every step toward the structure felt heavier than the last, each crunch of snow underfoot a reminder that time was slipping away. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of damp wood and decay. Dust motes floated in the faint light streaming through gaps in the walls, making the space feel almost otherworldly. The team moved cautiously, flashlights scanning every corner, every shadow. And there it was, a small pile of items tucked in the far corner, carefully hidden beneath a tattered tarp. Gloves on, James pulled back the cover, revealing photographs, notebooks, and a collection of objects that painted a chilling portrait of obsession. Among the belongings were sketches of Danika, maps of the woods, and meticulous notes detailing her routine. The boy's infatuation had escalated into meticulous planning, each action premeditated with a disturbing precision. But the biggest shock came next, a second set of footprints leading from the shed into the woods, suggesting that he had not acted alone. Another person had been involved, watching, waiting, perhaps even coaxing him into the unthinkable. Meanwhile, Megan had been waiting in the interrogation room, gripping a blanket around her trembling frame. When the boy was brought in, his usual confidence was gone, replaced by a pale, tense expression. Questions flew, voices raised, and then came the breakthrough. A witness, A classmate who had remained silent until now spoke up, confirming that another teenager had lured Danika into the woods while the accused had carried out the attack. The plan was more sinister than anyone had imagined. Forensic evidence confirmed the testimony. DNA and fibers linked the second teen to the crime scene, sealing the story of betrayal and malice. The boy Danika trusted had been manipulated, his charm and obsession exploited by someone older, someone crueler. The town's horror deepened as investigators pieced together how envy, jealousy, and a dangerous fascination had combined into a deadly trap. Megan's grief was now mingled with a cold clarity. She had lost her daughter to a calculated act of cruelty, orchestrated by hands she never suspected. But there was justice, though it came painfully and imperfectly. Both teenagers were taken into custody, their futures forever marked by a crime that could never be undone. As news outlets reported the arrests, the small town struggled to comprehend the layers of deception that had been hiding in plain sight. Danika's story became a cautionary tale about trust, obsession, and the fragility of innocence. Families locked doors, teens questioned friends, and everyone wondered how someone so close could turn into a predator without warning. The final twist came weeks later. In a drawer at the sheriff's office, a small envelope marked only with Danika's name was discovered. Inside was a letter she had written weeks before her death, never sent, revealing her hopes, fears, and a secret intuition that something wasn't right. Her words echoed long after her passing. "I just wanted to be happy, to be loved, but I have to be careful who I trust." It was a haunting reminder that sometimes tragedy strikes not from strangers, but from the shadows of familiarity. Megan held the letter close, tears streaming, knowing that justice had been served, but nothing could bring her daughter back. The town mourned, learned, and changed, but the memory of that Christmas would forever be a dark one. And as Detective James walked the woods one last time, he muttered under his breath, "They thought the killer was behind bars, but obsession leaves its mark in ways we'll never fully understand."